Welcome to Spiritual Steps, a podcast about learning to pray, listen, and grow by taking small steps on the spiritual journey. I'm your host, Stephen Hovatter, and this is episode 32, Holding the Mystery. If we desire to follow Christ, we have to stretch our capacity to hold on to mystery, maybe to hold on in mystery. All right, so right now in the podcast, in this kind of season of the podcast, not season like in terms of like, I don't really number seasons, but like in just this time of life in this podcast, I'm trying to let the episodes be driven by what I'm reading in the Gospels, and particularly Mark's Gospel, and insights on what that story means about the spirituality of our lives as disciples, as people who are following Christ. And one of the things that keeps coming up in Mark is what is often called the Messianic Secret. So that refers to the way that Jesus often tells people in Mark, whether people that he's healed or, the disciples sometimes, different things, to not talk about him or not to say certain things about him in public. And they often do it anyways, but it's an interesting part of the story that Mark kind of records these moments where Jesus seems to have a preference for some things that they be kind of low-key. And, who knows why? The text just leaves Jesus' motive for that ambiguous. And so it spawns all kinds of theories. Like there's this really common one that Jesus wanted to keep a low enough profile as a miracle worker so that it would allow him to accomplish his main task, his main purpose, without without interference, rather, from the authorities. They are always interfering, but the idea is that if Jesus' popularity just mushrooms because of this miracle stuff, that he won't be able to do the teaching that he wants to do in time. Jesus' ministry, it really only lasts for about 3 years, we think. Okay, so and that's that's with the kind of crowd kind of learning as they go. So if it just balloons, maybe that happens, maybe the pressure comes to him a lot quicker and he's unable to finish what he's doing. Or who knows? Maybe it's just that he wanted people to have a firsthand experience with him rather than just perceiving him through the filter of rumors, because rumor never gets it right. Or maybe he just needed space to maintain his own focus, his missional energy. We already have talked about this kind of rhythm of Jesus coming in and doing ministry and then kind of withdrawing. He could go in and heal people, and then he'll go into like private space. And maybe that becomes more difficult for him if people are talking more openly about him than they already do. So, maybe that's what he's doing. Really, the text just doesn't give you a clear answer about it. It just does not give you enough information. Just gives you just enough to become curious and gives you enough runway to kind of launch the speculations about that. Listen, mystery often provokes curiosity. That's why mystery can be fun. It's a genre that people love to dive into. However, depending on whether you have a sense of urgency about resolving the mystery, it can also create frustration too. And our lives, our spiritual lives, our walk with the divine often provokes urgency. It often provokes panic when we can't get the resolution to mystery that we desire. See, mystery can feel like a game of discovery, but when we feel like we need an answer quickly because we're in some kind of crisis, or we feel like we haven't been given adequate clues, feel like the game's going on too long, then we can feel like we're being toyed with. Mystery can feel cruel sometimes. On the other side of revelation, it can be beautiful and astounding, but in the meantime, like when you're still in that space where you can't perceive things with clarity, it can feel like things are being obscured without any reason, and it's natural for us to want to cry out and to protest that, and for frustration to build. And that can be, if we allow it to, that kind of frustration can be poisonous to our spiritual lives. I'll tell you what, it doesn't take much to see this piece of Mark's story, this kind of secrecy of Jesus as related to my own experience of seeking Christ. I often find myself chasing the mystery. It feels like comprehending Christ is just outside of my field of vision. And I often desire to understand more than it just feels like we have the clues to do. And I think part of my spiritual life is trying to find a way to manage the frustration of that, not to repress it, I mean, to kind of acknowledge it and hold it, while also, stretching my capacity for living in the mystery. Okay, stretching my capacity to be able to hold on to the mystery without despairing. And I'll tell you what, I think you can see that in the story too. It's not just that the secrecy is there. You can see that in Jesus, but you can also see the kind of puzzle of Jesus' disciples kind of working through that. Because sometimes they are on the inside of the goings-on. They understand the secrecy. Like they saw the healing that he's telling somebody else not to talk about. But then there's other times when they are wrestling with something that Jesus is kind of keeping his cards close about, and sometimes they want more clarity than they can get, even while they're, walking with the physical Jesus, okay? Mark seems to portray discipleship as containing within it the element of wrestling with mystery. We just don't know everything ever. And so we have to have this kind of patience with mystery. We have to learn how to dwell within it, to live within it, and live well within it. Now, here's the deal. I think many of the spiritual practices of Christianity are designed to, at least designed in part to help us walk through that mystery. They have power to do that. Although I think sometimes their power to do that is restrained by the way that we go through those practices, by the way we practice them. In other words, sometimes we do it in a way that insists that they give us clarity. We kind of try to make the practice do that, and kind of backfires on us. Ends up provoking more frustration in us because we don't get the clarity that we seek. Well, maybe the practice wasn't designed to give you clarity. Maybe sometimes the practice is designed to help you live within the mystery. Okay, here's what I mean. All right, let's take a couple of these. Like, the practice of Scripture reading. All right, when you read in Scripture, if you do that, if you read well, it can be a way of helping you understand that there's often these gaps of mystery where God's people don't understand what's going on, right? And that can help you be patient in your own times of mystery, your own times when God seems more hidden than he does revealed. In other words, you kind of read through and you see how the patriarchs, their lives aren't, it's not like the Lord is always blinding them with light. I mean, they walk in darkness a lot, and that darkness is punctuated by these moments of light, these flashes of light where they perceive God, they receive revelations of God. But that's not the norm. Like, the norm is they're just trying to figure out life as best they can. Okay, they're trying to follow what God's called them to do, and they're out there like raising sheep, and it's not like they're always in direct dialogue with the Lord. They're not always hearing the voice of the Lord. Or you kind of look through. I mean, there's these places in Israel's story where it becomes really clear what they're supposed to do, and then they have these moments where they have these long stretches where there's more ambiguity. And if you read in that story, and I'm just saying that the practice of reading in Scripture kind of acclimates you to the presence of mystery. But there's a way of doing it that you could, you go in there because people say that the Bible is, this big answer book. It's like, you take all your questions and all your answers are there in the Bible. I got to tell you, there are a lot more questions in the Bible sometimes. And if you kind of are reading it through and your faith, just if you're open to it, you can read through it and see the presence of the mystery. But if you go into it to try to resolve the mystery, then you're going to end up being frustrated. It's going to end up compounding your despair rather than helping you grasp the mystery. So the way you do the practice matters, all right? Other things like that too, like the practice of just community worship, like being a part of a church or something like that, right? Well, ideally, like that should be a way of helping you temper your reactions against mystery, or at least your frustrations with mystery, I guess I should say. Because it can, when you're in a community, you have people that are in all sorts of different stages of life, and some of them are experiencing crisis, and some of them are experiencing celebration. And when you bring your frustration with mystery to that table and just let it be, then it can help you kind of live into it, help you lean into it, help you understand that mystery is okay, right? But if you come to the community insisting that they give you the answers, insisting that they show you the light, then it's going to, again, compound your despair. And lots of practices like that. I think the practice of silence, right? If you kind of embrace practicing silent meditation, moments and of deliberate, intentional silence in your life, man, that can help you embrace mystery. But if all you can take into that silence is only despair all the time, then again, the frustration is compounded. Listen, the practices of the spiritual life, if you can go into them aware that they are going to contain mystery, embracing as well as you can the mystery, then they can help condition you to what it means to live the life of mystery, the life of faith. I mean, that's what faith is, right? It is walking in the mystery, trusting God even when things aren't clear. Doesn't mean we don't grasp for clarity. Doesn't mean we don't seek it out. But it means that we have some ground level of trust even in the presence of mystery. Again, if we desire to follow Christ, then we have to stretch our capacity to hold on to mystery. There's just going to be mystery is just part of the journey. Part of the journey is learning to lay down our defenses, allowing mystery to do its work within us, allow it to form us. Don't be afraid of mystery. It's what forms you in faith. Develop a relationship with the presence of the hidden God. For in the end, that's the way of faith. Okay, that's all for this episode. Just work in all of the spiritual practices that you have as part of your life. Work to embrace a mystery in those things. Thanks for listening. Hey, if you have any questions or comments, you just want to extend the conversation, Twitter is home base for me, at Stephen Hovatter. And if this is helpful, I hope you recommend it to somebody else. Send them a link to the podcast. I'd love you to do that. All right, we'll be back soon with a new episode. Really trying to keep on a weekly schedule. Until then, so hopefully next week, right? But until then, keep taking the next step that you see in front of you. Hold on to the mystery, and may God be with you on each step of your journey. All right, peace.